The shadow of room 237. In the fall of 1997, a young couple, Mark and Emily Turner, checked into the Silver Creek Lodge in Estes Park, Colorado. It was their honeymoon, and they had heard the lodge, nestled in the shadow of the Rockies, was a peaceful retreat. They had no idea the hotel carried a dark secret. A secret tied to room 237. The legend of room 237 was whispered by staff and locals alike. Guests who stayed there reported hearing strange noises, whispers in the dead of night, and shadowy figures in the corners of their vision. The lodge owners dismissed it as local folklore, yet few dared enter the room alone. When the Turners arrived, they were told their original reservation had been changed, and they were upgraded to a suite, room 237. Mark joked about the eerie stories they'd read online, but Emily felt uneasy. The room was beautiful, a spacious suite with antique furnishings and a view of the mountains. Yet something about it felt wrong. On their first night, the couple settled in after a long day of hiking. As they unpacked, Emily noticed a cold draft near the window, even though it was tightly shut. Mark brushed it off and suggested they explore the lodge's grand hall. They spent the evening sipping wine by the fireplace, chatting with other guests. By the time they returned to their room, it was nearly midnight. The first odd occurrence happened around 2 a.m. Emily woke to a soft tapping sound coming from the closet. Half asleep, she nudged Mark, but he groggily mumbled something about an old building settling and went back to sleep. Emily decided to check it herself. She crossed the room, her bare feet cold on the wooden floor, and opened the closet. Nothing, just their neatly hung clothes and empty shelves. Relieved, she closed the door and returned to bed. But as she lay down, the tapping resumed. Louder this time, rhythmic and deliberate. Emily's heart began to race. She whispered to Mark, trying to wake him, but he was in a deep sleep. The tapping turned into a scratching. Emily sat up, her eyes wide in the darkness, and then she saw it. A shadow moving across the far wall. It wasn't the shadow of furniture or curtains, but something tall, thin, and distinctly human-like. She watched, frozen as it slid from one corner of the room to the other, stopping near the foot of their bed. "Mark!" she hissed, shaking him awake. He bolted upright, groggy and confused. "What is it?" he asked. "Look." Emily pointed to the shadow, but it was gone. Mark sighed. "You probably just saw headlights from a car outside," he said. "Try to sleep." But Emily couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The next day, they went about their plans, exploring the nearby town and hiking trails. But Emily was distracted. She couldn't forget the shadow. That night, Mark suggested they leave the bedside lamp on, hoping it would ease her nerves. Around 3 a.m., Emily woke again. The room was silent except for Mark's soft breathing. The lamp cast a warm glow, but it didn't reach the closet. The door, which she had shut before bed, was now slightly ajar. Emily sat up, heart pounding, and stared at the closet. She could feel it. Something was inside, watching them. She nudged Mark, but before she could speak, the closet door creaked open wider. A cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the lamp. Darkness swallowed them whole. Emily clung to Mark, her breath shallow and fast. "Who's there?" Mark called into the blackness. A low whisper echoed from the closet, a voice neither of them could understand. Then, slowly, the shadow emerged. A tall, gaunt figure with hollow eyes and elongated limbs. It moved with unnatural grace, gliding toward the bed. Emily screamed. Mark grabbed his phone, fumbling to turn on the flashlight, but the device wouldn't respond. The shadow loomed over them, its face inches from theirs, and in a voice that sounded like 1,000 whispers, it said, "Leave." Terrified, they bolted from the room, not stopping until they reached the front desk. The night clerk, a middle-aged man with a weary expression, listened to their frantic account. "You were in room 237?" he asked, his face pale. "Yes," Mark gasped. "What the hell is in there?" The clerk hesitated before speaking. 20 years ago, a guest went missing in that room. A man named David Langley. No one ever found him. Some say his spirit never left. Mark and Emily checked out immediately, abandoning their plans to stay the week. As they drove away from the lodge, Emily glanced back one last time. In the window of room 237, she saw it, the shadow watching them leave. To this day, room 237 remains unoccupied. The Silver Creek Lodge has since closed, but locals still speak of the Turners' encounter. And those who dare to pass by the abandoned building at night claim they can see a shadow moving in the windows, waiting for its next guest.